Hi everybody. So first of all, I feel like I need a proper mnasikiza. Mnanipea pressure. Mnanipea pressure. I feel like I need a proper introduction. This podcast haina a proper introduction, but I'm still working on it. Also, if you have ideas, unaweza nipea. Need to appreciate. Si tunajenga pamoja, we are building together. So hi everybody and welcome to the minisode series. Just for clarity, let me explain how we're going to run this podcast. So it's a bi-monthly. Is it bi-monthly or bi-weekly? Like in a month is two episodes in a month. So we shoot this, like we release this Saturday and then tunaruka and then like that. Sawa. So this we jump. So now in a month we're gonna have 2 episodes, right? One episode is gonna be featuring a guest. Like by the time you see this, I think the guest episode that will have aired is the one for Wangari only, which I hope you enjoyed. And you can comment and just give us your feedback on that. So we have the guest episode and then my solo episode. So the solo episodes are gonna be called minisodes. And I feel so like that's so creative. It's not creative really. Nimetoka kwa Mkuru. Hi Mkuru. Hata mimi ni Mkuru. I belong to the Mkuru Genzi community. So the minisodes is just me alone, and then the main, let me say like the main the main episodes, we're gonna have a guest. Their episodes are gonna be longer because it's a whole conversation, and then for the minisodes, it's gonna be a little bit shorter. So maybe 20 to 25 minutes at most, or 15 minutes. That's the time of the minisodes, right? And so what we're gonna do alone is we're gonna be looking at the advice that the internet has for people in their 20s. Like when people look back in their 20s and they make like stories about that. We look at memes about people in their 20s. So that's what we're going to discuss. It's not just me alone, it's me and you. So this is a very personal episode. And it's very intimate between me and you as the watcher. The who? The watcher. No, it's not the watcher. The person who, the audience, all right? So starting us off is sort of, we're going to look at an episode. I was looking at Man Talk and TMI. So they were basically like going through their 20s, this thing, what I wish I knew when I was in my 20s, the mistakes I wish I didn't make, or the mistakes I learned from my 20s. So that's what we're going to discuss today. That's tunaanza na Man Talk. So yesterday I was watching Man Talk episode, Man Talk KE. So it's a podcast between 2 guys, Eli Mwanda and, what's the other guy? Oscar. No, I know Eli because he's talking like British. He's talking British English. So I just know Eli and he's like cutesy. Oops. So they were talking about sometimes in our 20s, we want to be like people in their 40s. And let's like pause a minute and discuss that. Because also me as MJ, me as the host of this podcast, kuna sometimes nakaanga na wish my life was like similar to what people in their 40s or even 30s are doing. That means like driving a very big car, living in a very big house, traveling for leisure and stuff. And so that's not like typical life for somebody in their 20s. Because let me tell you, mimi how I understand people in their 20s, because I'm a person in my 20s. Huku nikungori, my guys. So it's people in their 20s are mostly in school, trying to figure out career. They're just like ndio wanaingia maybe interns, because also me I'm an unposted intern. Please post medical interns. So I'm looking at 20s wako shule, wako in their internships. They're just starting out their career. Of course kuna wale outliers. Unajua wale watu wali dance TikTok during COVID. Those are outliers. Hatuko the same na wao. So achana na hao kwanza, like don't look at the outliers. I'm talking about an everyday regular somebody in their 20s. It's not easy for them to drive the biggest car, to live in the biggest house. If either you are in a bed sitter ama you are in a 1-bedroom, ukienda sana, it's 2-bedroom. Na hapo umejituma hii dunia, like that's hata wewe ni outlier kama unaishi 2-bedroom in your 20s. Hi, kama unaishi 2-bedroom in your 20s. So nime describe like a typical 20-year-old life, like typical. Sisemi the crazy stuff. Even let me tell you, even Sauti Sol, they used to cohabit in their 20s. So tuko sawa guys, tuko sawa. That's like the typical life of 20s, and then there's the 40s or the 30s. Wakati maybe you have progressed in your career, you're making out the monies uko in your bag, your business in a pickup. What else? Maybe you have kids, if you're in the influencing stroke, the creation, the digital creation space, you have built your brand, now you're making money from like partners. I think that's how people in the creative space make money, like unapoa brand deals. I think that's how they're called. So there's a difference. There's a clear-cut difference between life for people in their 20s and life for people like past their 20s. Because 20s, you're figuring it out, you're experimenting rather, and then so ukifika your 40s kidogo life imeanza kuingiana. But so sometimes sisi, me myself included, we want to jump this hustling space or this experimenting state to end directly to where we're earning the big money. We're working for the UN, we're not paying taxes, like all those things. We are traveling every day. I'm in a new country, So, like, for example, let me give you an example that you guys know. I don't know much about cars. I think, recently nimejua Land Rover is not a Toyota. Me, I used to know Land Rover is a Toyota. Genuinely, I knew Land Rover is a Toyota. Like, that's how outside I am with cars. But I know there's this car that everybody wants to drive, that big Mercedes. Inaitwaje that big Mercedes? Yeah, there's the GLE, but there's another one, the one even Yashinsky sang about, or he drives. I don't know, it's inaanza bado na G, na ni ya Mercedes. Yeah, G-Wagon. I know a G-Wagon. Because everybody wants to drive a G-Wagon. I'm telling you, that's the only car I know. Like, if I see it, I'll know that's a G-Wagon or that's a GLE, because I've seen it in memes, like, everybody is saving for their GLE or G-Wagon. Everybody is saving for that Mercedes, even us in our 20s. But you see, we want that big car, but we don't want the process to get to that big car. You get a. So I was listening to Mantalk, na walikuwa nasema, the thing about being in your 20s is you look at life of people in their 40s and 30s, you see the picture, but because you are seeing from outside, you're just seeing the outside picture. You don't know the struggle that they had to go through for them to get there. You just see somebody driving a GLE, but you don't know the process they had to get to the GLE. Now that process is experienced in our 20s. You get it? Saizi ukiwa 20s, like maybe you're changing jobs, you're trying to figure it out. That's the process. So sometimes hatutaki kukua in that process. We just want to, like, I wake up, I sleep, I wake up, I have that G-Wagon. But you don't know the process, right? Let me give you like an example. So for me, I'm starting this podcast, right? And it's like very, very early stages, like 100% early stages. And that this podcast that I want to be like, nakwambia nikifika tu podcasts, like if I get to this level, if I get to the levels where, we're having like advertisers in the podcast, I come here, I tell you guys like, so today the podcast is sponsored, sponsored by, it's sponsored by Suju who and who. If I get to that point, now nanikana za make it in life. So there's a podcast, of course, that I look at and I want to be there. So now when there's a time I was talking to my friend and I was telling them there's this podcast that I really admire and I want to get to that point with my podcast, but he works in that creative space. Akaniambia, MJ, but do you know like the work they've put in? Akaanza kuniambia, these guys, they used to use their money to like sponsor the podcast, like to get the equipment, to pay the people they're working for. They had to go for it'll call like hundreds of episodes before they got to where we see. So when we see the podcast, we see the success at the moment, but we really don't see like the process to that success. And that's the problem. And I'm telling you, because of course most of my friends are 20s, tunakwanga na this pressure of making it, but we really don't see the process. And that's what Mantok was saying. They were saying there's a process to it. You just can't like wake up and get to that point. And that's what sometimes we forget, right? And so we see the stability, but we don't see the journey to that stability. And so if you're watching this, maybe like you have, I don't know, you want to own a GLE or a G-Wagon, you want to live in the biggest house possible, you want to have this bougie stuff, like this sweet stuff in your house, you want to make it and everything, as a result of that desire, I'm not saying that desire is bad, you can have the desire, and it can be an positive influence in your life, but don't let it be a negative influence in your life. Don't look at it from the point of like, oh my God, I'm not doing it. Look at it at the point of, I know there's a process that they had to go through to get there, and I'm willing, to sacrifice and to put in the work and to go through that process for me to get to the point where I drive the dream car I want, or I live in the house that I want to. Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is from that episode of Man Talk, I got if you desire for that life, don't just look at it from the outside picture. Have a sneak peek of what it is inside. So you can maybe like have a conversation with them, like what did you do for you to get there, like that. So also look at the picture from the inside and not just the outside. TMI walikuwa nasema things we wish in our 20s, and actually TMI was calling it the hood. They walikuwa nasema the 20s is the hood, is the ghetto, and I absolutely agree with them. Huku ni kungori, my guys. So Lydia was saying she wishes when she was in her 20s, and I wish angejua everybody is still figuring it out. See, when you're in, that's another, I feel like it's tied to what we've discussed before. You see people and you're like, oh my God, you have it figured out. And I remember even when Wangari was here for the episode, if you've not watched that episode, please go and watch. You were missing out on a lot. So I spoke to Wangari in the episode and I told her, me as an outsider, if I look at your life from the outside, I feel like you have it figured out because she's a founder, she's a doctor, she's doing all this great stuff, she's active on social media. Like if you look at her life from the outside, she has made it. And that's the thing about social media, because we live in a social media era. So you look at pictures on Instagram, you look at pictures on TikTok, like people doing trends on TikTok, and you feel like, oh my God, your life, may make it. You have like the success, the key to success and everything. And that gives us pressure. Genuinely, I have one of a friend who anakwanga so stressed, like anaona people traveling, or like, oh my God, you have figured it out. Like me, I want to travel, and you start getting that pressure. And it's sort of what we have discussed from before your TMI cinema. The other one was from Man Talk. So just as Man Talk, sometimes because we are looking from outside, tunaona ni kama they've figured it out. But if you take a sneak peek, how to mean what those guys are going through, because also them they're kinawaramba and they haven't even figured it out. Sometimes actually the person you think has figured it out anakuangalia na anadhani wewe umefigure it out. It's ni kitu crazy. Mimi naambia huku in our 20s, I would not recommend. So you're there seated like wishing like, oh my God, I wish I had your life. But in reality, also them they're wishing they had your life, because we're all looking at it from one angle. We're all looking at it from what I see from the outside, but I don't know the tears you cry when you sleep. I don't know the troubles you look for. For example, me, I have seen podcasts that are very successful, and now I go back and look at how they started. I'm like, maybe I'm even better. Like my start is better, like generally, and I'm not even I'm not bragging. Like there's a podcast from the UK nilikuwa na watch. They're such a successful podcast. Na nikaona venye walikuwa naanza, guys, let me tell you, this setup is way better than that. And that's the problem. Mi naona like wakati wa shafika, and I feel like, oh, you guys have figured it out. But that's not it. When they were starting, everybody was a mess. Everybody actually is still figuring it out. And Lydia and Murugi walikuwa nasema, sometimes even in your 30s, even in your 40s, you haven't figured it out. Like, ni kama kufigure it out, it's like a facade. It's like, it's not, it can happen, but can it really happen though? That's the question. So from today's minisode, I hope I have spoken an encouragement to you. First of all, don't look at it from the outside. Get inside, like get an inside view and see what exactly, like what it took for them to get there and everything. The second takeaway from this minisode is that nobody has really figured it out. Myself as MJ, as I sit here on this podcast, I'm so scared about a lot of things about this podcast, but we're learning as we go. And that's the beauty about this podcast. So as I wrap up, please, if you know there's a 20-year-old that needs a community of just trying to figure a life together, I feel like every 20-year-old needs to be plugged to this podcast, not even for myself, but for you as well. Because we are learning together, we are growing together, we are inspiring each other as we grow. So please like, share, subscribe, share it with your friends, especially this minisode, because I know genuinely so many people have pressure for different things, and if we grow together, if we learn together, it's gonna be beautiful. Yeah, so that's it for today's minisode. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope sijaongea mbio sana. I have a challenge ya kuongea mbio sana. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye. Hey.